Let's bring you the latest on coronavirus. A Russian university claims to have successfully completed clinical trials of the first COVID-19 vaccine in the world. The chief researcher at Russia's Sechenov University said that the trial successfully proved the vaccine's effectiveness and safety. Russia's vaccine candidate has been trialled on two groups of volunteers. The first group of 18 volunteers were administered the shot on June 18th. The second group of 20 volunteers received the vaccine on June 23rd. The trial participants will be discharged in two batches on July 15th and 20th. The volunteers will continue to remain under medical supervision on an outpatient basis, but there is no consensus on how big Russia's breakthrough is. The trial size indicates that the vaccine is currently in phase 1 or phase 2. Phase 3 or the pre-marketing phase involves hundreds and even thousands of volunteers across multiple testing centers. Only China's Sinovac has currently entered phase 3 of clinical trials. So Russia's claim of having developed the world's first COVID-19 vaccine still remains unproven. Now, multiple vaccine registries also list Russia's candidate as currently in phase 1. The Russian government has, however, backed the Sechenov University's findings. The Russian embassy in India has also tweeted on Sunday claiming to have developed the world's first ever vaccine for COVID-19. Now, let's get you all the details and a perspective on these latest developments. For that, I'm joined in by WION's correspondent Lucy Taylor, who's joining me live from Moscow at this hour. Lucy, a very warm welcome to you. Based on its testing so far, how are experts assessing the potential success of this vaccine?
Well, we're hearing that these tests have been successfully completed. That was reported by Russian state media this weekend. As far as we know, Russia is in phase 1 trials. That means they're testing for the safety of the vaccine rather than its efficacy, rather than whether it actually works as a vaccine against the virus, although there may be some elements of that they can pick up from these trials. But phase 1 trials usually used to test the safety of the vaccine on human volunteers. It's a good development in terms of progressing the vaccine if it turns out to be correct.
Right.
But it doesn't make necessarily this Russian vaccine world leading. There are 21 other vaccines in development, according to the World Health Organization.
Right.
2 of them have reached phase 3 trials. Those are in China and in the United Kingdom. But here in Russia, reporting probably the end of phase 1 trials. So
right.
Positive progress.
It's interesting that you've mentioned that this is a vaccine which has just cleared phase 1. Now that the vaccine's clinical trials are over, what are the remaining phases left for it to clear before it ends the commercial production?
Well, it seems that it's the phase 1 of the clinical trials that are over, but there would still be how effective it is in actually combating the virus. So phase 1 has been on a small number of patients. We're told now that they have all been discharged, although they will continue to be monitored as outpatients. But it appears the vaccine is safe according to those tests, but there are 2 more phases of clinical trials still to go before this can be put into production. So it's spreading out rather than looking at a small number of less than 30 patients, moving to hundreds of patients, right, and then later to thousands of patients to test the efficacy of this vaccine in the wider population. After that, of course, there would then be the difficulty of putting it into mass production on the kind of scale that you would need to vaccinate everybody in Russia, everybody in the world, in order to get that herd immunity that would need to combat the vaccine. So it does appear that there is a long way to go with this vaccine. There are many others, as I say, around the world in development, equally going through the same process. And all of these trials have been massively accelerated compared to what would normally be the case because of the pandemic.
And we are going to talk about that aspect.
Russia, trying to really ramp up and be the first.
Right, and that is a very interesting aspect that you mentioned. Now, a study conducted in London's King's College has found that immunity post the infection won't last very long. Have Russian researchers been able to address this aspect through the vaccine? What, according to researchers, could be a long-term and effective vaccine to COVID-19?
Well, there are a number of different methods, and each of these different 21 vaccine trials is looking at slightly different ways to address the immunity in the population. As you say, it's not yet even clear yet whether antibodies in themselves do lead to immunity in the general population, or whether that immunity could fade over time. But there are different ways of looking at that, and the Russian trial is looking at one of them. There are also different tests here in Russia being carried out to look at immunity in the wider population. Russia is carrying out, Moscow in fact, is carrying out widespread tests for immunity among the population, looking at two different kinds of antibodies, IgM and IgG antibodies, which give different indications of how immune a person might be, of whether a person might already have had the virus, and what the immunity looks like and how long that immunity lasts. So widespread testing in the immunity and then widespread testing of these vaccines. And Russia hopes that together with its scientists, it might be able to move forward on the journey of getting immunity for the wider population.
Right, so a host of challenges awaiting the vaccine trials for now, be it United States, China, UK, Israel, India and now Russia. Countries across the world, Lucy, are racing to find a treatment for coronavirus. Under normal circumstances, this process takes years, which is not the case anymore. Could the lack of time increase the risk of foul-ups?
It does indeed need to be accelerated. That's what we're hearing from all around the world. The Russian trial clearly looking to be one of the first, but there are others around the world. And as you say, it's happening much quicker than it would normally do because of the absolute urgency of the pandemic that we're in at the moment. All of these trials would have taken much longer in normal times, but they're racing to be first. And we've seen a tweet from the Russian embassy in India saying that this could be the world's first vaccine. I think the Russian government would love that to be the case, but it depends, of course, which one is proven to be fastest and which one is proven to work most effectively and which one can get into mass production in time. And I think these are all unanswered questions, and until these scientific trials are completed around the world, it's going to be several months, even longer perhaps, until we know whether a vaccine is a way out of this crisis, or whether we're all going to have to change our behaviour for a lot longer to try to combat the virus as it is at the moment without a vaccine.
Right, very rightly said, and it seems highly unlikely that a vaccine will be out in the year 2020.